So when it comes to running our tabletop role-playing games, we sit down and we run a session, and then presumably we run some more sessions and some more sessions, and we run X number of sessions, and that's a full-blown campaign. So the thing about the media is we see these long-running Let's Plays of games. Here's looking at you, Critical Role, that goes 100 sessions, 150 sessions. But then, interesting enough, we've just been informed that the average D&D campaign only lasts 6 sessions. So my question for you all is, would you rather have a short, medium, or a long campaign? 10 sessions, 50 sessions, 100 sessions? What's the appeal of shorter versus longer in your eyes? Let's start for you, Wally.
1,000,000 sessions. No. It's going to depend on the frequency that we are playing for me. So like in my Waterdeep Dragon Heist game, it lasted for 2.5 years, but we only got to play like once a month or twice a month for quite some times. And so with that in mind, we didn't get to know the characters as well. Now, if we were playing once a week, then I could see a campaign going for us for, 50 to 100. Whereas the more time in between your sessions, like if you are just playing monthly or whatever, the players may find other characters that they want to play. So those are naturally just going to be shorter. So again, for me, it's going to depend on the frequency, but if I was forced to pick, I do like the medium range. I like about 30 to 50 sessions. I think it's a lot of fun. If I'm really enjoying the story, the NPCs, the player characters, I would love to just run them all the way up from level 1 to 20. Just to get that full arc. I'm really cool with that, but again, it's going to depend on the frequency of that, and if we're all enjoying the game. If nobody's enjoying the game that we're playing and stuff, then that could end in approximately 6 sessions.
I'll tell you what, if you're running a 100-session campaign and everyone hates it, but everyone's just playing it out of a spite, that just sounds like a miserable time to me.
Those are some really good friends.
Yeah, just everyone's sticking out together. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. Fred, how do you feel? Short, long, mid-tier campaigns? What are you looking for?
Look, campaign length, couldn't care less, frankly. When I saw this question, I was like, okay, how do I answer this question? Because it's not really about the length of the campaign. I'm like, well, do they want to keep playing? Are they still happy playing with the characters they've got? Have I still got something to say? Is there something that they still need to achieve? And if there isn't, then I like, well, if they want to keep playing, well, I've got to create something. So the length of the campaign is the length of the campaign. Like, how long is a piece of string? There's no way of knowing how long it's going to be. So to give you an idea, for those of you who are wondering what the hell I'm saying that I have run campaigns from level 1 to 20, okay? I've done that. I've ran campaigns from level 1 to 13. I just finished one from level 1 to 16. But the way that I run a campaign now is different to how I used to run a campaign. And I suspect it will change again. In the past, I would calculate experience points, and I would award experience points for killing monsters, defeating monsters, torturing monsters, humiliating monsters, generally things like that. And then there was the story goal stuff and the achievements that they needed to do. That's all fine, and so I'd calculate all that. It's torture. So I moved to milestones like so many of us do, and I'm like, okay, so what's my milestone for? Okay, they get to level whatever it is. So I was like, okay, well, let's say this adventure's built for that level. But now I've moved again. I still use milestones, but I level my characters up every 1 or 2 sessions now. So that means a campaign that goes from level 1 to 20 is potentially only 40 sessions long, and each session is probably about 3 hours, of which about the first 15 minutes is us talking about garbage and possibly talking about something else for garbagey for another 15 minutes. And then, so it's only really like 2.5 hours. Oh, hang on, there's a break of 10 minutes in there as well. So it's like 2 hours and 20 minutes of actual gameplay. So it's not actually a long time. I know that sounds weird and like, well, you don't get a decent experience. I'm like, well, dude, I've thrown monsters at players before and encounters that if I actually counted up all the XP, they would have gone up a couple of levels all at once. I know people are like, what? What? No, it can happen. Trust me, it happened in Dungeons and Dragons 4E. You could squash 3 encounters all together, and they were fine. They're like, Fred, we don't care. And 5e at higher level, they're like, Fred, nice try, but really that's not going to cut it because we just plastered those monsters. High level play is very different, so that's why I don't worry about how long it's going to be. My biggest concern is the length of the adventure. It's a real drag when I have to deal with an adventure that's got too many moving parts and it's like 30 pages long, and I don't like the hardback copy books that Wizards of the Coast put out that are 250 pages or 300 pages. It's just a giant pain in the butt. I like 1 page to 4 pages. Kobold Press gets my vote. And I write my adventures, if I make it, they're like 1 page long. That's it. Nothing more. So...
You like your adventures like you like me. Short, sweet, and to the point. Denny, how do you feel about your campaign lengths?
I feel I myself am more of a role play actor type D&D player and DM, I think. So I think that tends to lend itself to medium to long campaigns. But Fred, you made a good point there in that when we think about the composition of a campaign, what is a campaign other than a series of adventures strung together, right? So really, it's kind of an adventure by adventure basis where we kind of touch in and go, did you guys enjoy that adventure? Do you want to keep going? Because the story can still continue potentially tying all these threads together. And with the games that I tend to run, I'm thankful that my players tend to have a play style similar to mine, so they also love to role play and do the heavy character interactions. I could sit back for like a half hour and they'll talk to each other in character, and I'm like, they're fleshing out my world. They're throwing in lore. And as long as they're interested and have questions about my setting, we'll probably keep going at this. So, yeah, there's the benefit of longer campaigns where you get to invest in characters and explore more. But then the benefit of a shorter campaign is, as you just mentioned with the statistics, like campaigns fizzle out. If you're planning to do a shorter campaign, you have a very good chance of actually seeing that story from beginning to end. So I totally see where the benefit of a short campaign is, but that's not what I'm in for. I am in it for the long haul.
Yeah, and so long as your players are willing to eat up that time and fulfill the DM's greatest dream of doing nothing, then power to you. That's the dream, is when we can get our players to sit there and we can just sit back and, oh, yes, thank you, players.
Love it every time.
Absolutely. For me personally, I'm definitely team short campaigns because I want my campaigns to be themed. And unfortunately with themes run dry real quick. I could not imagine running 100 session Curse of Strahd because I wouldn't want 100 sessions of Gothic horror. I couldn't imagine running 100 session Wild Beyond the Witchlight because 100 sessions of Sunshine and Rainbows would get old real quick. I like to keep my theme short, sweet, to the point, and I like to keep on moving on to the next thing. And when I run campaigns, I try to usually run between 20 to 30 sessions, and with that, I feel like I can, hammer in the themes that I want, sprinkle in a few fun adventures in the mix, and then when all's said and done, we move on to something else. And I've been doing that formula for a while now, and it's been working out well for me, and it's been working out for all the players that can play with me. So I'm definitely team short campaigns. I've definitely ran longer ones, but I feel like you mentioned before, longer campaigns really rely on the players heavily invested in it, because if you have players that just show up to play, then it's probably not going to work out as well.
I think you said something very interesting as well as far as defining a campaign. You mentioned 100 sessions of Curse of Strahd or 100 sessions of Avernus or whatnot.
Hmm.
So how do you define that campaign? Because for me, when I was thinking about this, I go for this play group, the player characters. So within that 50 to 100 games, it could be Curse of Strahd and Tomb of Annihilation and Waterdeep or something like that. So I kind of define my campaign as going from the beginning of most of the player characters and then when they finish their arc, as opposed to when the book is done and we shut it and move on.
For sure. So right now I've got a group that their characters have gone through Tomb of Annihilation and Rime of the Frost Maiden, and the next time I'm going to send them straight to hell. So I'll be having fun with that. So like for that, yeah, for sure I can call that a campaign, but I think that typically what we see with a lot of these pre-written adventures, specifically for 5e, we typically see that people pick up the book, they start, middle, and end at the grand finale, and then they just put the book away. But definitely, those adventures right there have a lot of great just adventure potential for a full-blown campaign. You can sprinkle in the whole module into an adventure, or it could just be you taking bits and pieces that you like. I know that Out of the Abyss definitely gets a lot of love. Some people just take some cool snippets from that and put in their campaigns. So yeah, usually, a campaign is, once you're done with a certain air quote sort of story arc with the same player characters. But I also run a game where PCs die. And so sometimes campaigns kind of, it just depends.
You've also got me interested on that statistic that you threw out there, 6 sessions.
The average game ends in 6 sessions because in reality, think about how many games get started up with one session, and after that one session, the players know gosh darn well that they're not going to play with that DM, or the DM runs that one session and they realize, oh god, I'm not running for these players. So definitely there's a lot of, just one session, one and dones. And then presumably, yeah, there is a bunch of these, we're going to go on for a few weeks or so. But then, of course, life gets in the way. So, you run once every 2 weeks, and then all of a sudden on the next one, it's like, something came up, and then it just slowly falls apart.
Makes sense.
I find that number really concerning and rather strange, because I think about my own experience playing Dungeons and Dragons. And maybe I always played generally with, there was at least somebody who was a friend in the group. Or if even when I was starting out and some of them weren't necessarily particularly good friends, I've never really played a game where there was just 6 sessions and then we stopped. I can't think of a single time. The only time that we had a game that was as short as that, and it would have been like a one shot or like one session, or we ran 2 sessions because the one shot took longer than one session, so we thought, we'll come back and we'll finish it off. So I find that rather bizarre. It almost as if people have found people to play with that really they don't get along with, or is it the players who are allowing the whole thing to fall apart, or is it because there's a lot of people who aren't very experienced as dungeon masters running the game? I don't know what that is, but I find that rather hard to imagine and believe. I almost feel like, where did they get this stat from? Because I don't remember them asking me how long my campaigns were, and I've been playing for years. So if they're taking that statistic from the newer group that are just playing Dungeons and Dragons, they've only been playing for maybe a couple of years. Some of them are maybe 1 year or 2 years. If they started with 5e, it's 7 years, right? I've been playing right back to Advanced Dungeons and Dragons, so I've played a lot more games than they have. And there'll be a lot of other people like that. So I kind of feel like maybe the metric for that is based, it's kind of skewed a little bit based on when they put out that survey, and a lot of the newer people have put in their feedback, and it's made it look like, games don't really go for very long because people just finish after 6 sessions and that's it. When in fact, maybe the demographic that have been around a lot longer, who've played more games, would indicate, well, actually, no, we played for 2 years. We played for 1 year. We played 50 sessions. So yeah, I I don't think that metric means very much. I would take that metric and write it on a piece of toilet paper, wipe my backside with it, and flush it down the toilet, because I really don't think it means very much. Look, to be fair, a lot of statistics nowadays are just bumpkin. It's fabricated, it's put through, translation formulas to make it look the way it needs to look so they can get more funding. So I don't kind of feel like maybe that metric is just a lot of nonsense.
So what I would say is I'm willing to bet that the reason why older groups stick together is because there was a social obligation of when you had games in person. But the thing you got to remember is the overwhelming majority of games nowadays are no longer in person. They are with random people that you find online, and you meet these people. You don't know any of them. You met them on the Discord, the Reddit. You met them on a Facebook group. You met them wherever it is. And then you play a session or two with them. And then you realize, oh, these people are weirdos. Oh, I actually don't have the time. Oh, the DM sucks. Oh, the players suck. There's a huge laundry list of things. And it's so easy to walk away from a game when it's purely online with a whole bunch of people you don't meet versus if you go in person and these people. That is a lot harder to walk away from.
Yeah, absolutely. And aside from my Tuesday group, we've been playing together for 3.5 years. I've been in 2 other campaigns that both lasted under 6 sessions. One was probably right at 6, and one was only a couple. The one that was only a couple was scheduling, work and everything else. We were able to meet up for one or two, and then the scheduling didn't work. And the other one was, I think one of you did mention, was a new dungeon master. And she took control of the game and was running it, and found out she didn't like running games. She felt like she was getting ready to give a speech every time, so she just wanted to go back to being a player. So that campaign fizzled out like really fast.
Yeah,
and I don't think that's something we really touched on either, is like DM burnout, right? Because sometimes we go through a story and we talked about like the players enjoying the game, but sometimes the DM's the one that ends up not enjoying the story anymore.
Yeah,
for sure.
That's true.
And, it's important that you check yourself. It's important that you figure out, what's working, what's not working. If you've got burnout, your players have burnout. If you do want to touch upon certain themes, it's important to figure out all these things. And it's important for you to tell us how long your games typically go for, because, maybe that graph is wrong. Maybe they didn't get to you people, because you people are the best people, the ones that comment on this. You're the best people ever.